Welcome to another episode of the Total R&B podcast. I am your host Lorena, and today I'm here with a new interview. This time with singer-songwriter from Toronto, Leila Dey. Hey, Leila.
Hello. Hey, what's going on?
Nothing. How are you? How's everything going?
I'm so good. I'm so good. Everything has been going good. I can't complain. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't either. So I'm excited to talk to you because I got introduced to you from the Detour album. That's when I
Oh,
discovered your music. Yes.
okay.
So I went back, I got to know a bit about your story, and I just been excited for you and everything that's been happening with your career once you put out this album as well. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited too. I mean, let's do it.
All right. So I always start off the interviews with the same question all the time for my guests. So what is your first memory of R&B music? Not the first time you heard it, but what comes to mind when I say that?
What comes to mind, honestly, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Like, I feel like that album, my mom used to like literally have that album on repeat. And it is, I feel like at the center of me and my understanding with R&B. I don't know what it was about that time, that era that I just really connect with, where I feel like this is home. So when I literally hear like my first introduction to R&B, and
Mhm.
not just like the first time I heard it, like you said, but like when I felt something and I was like, "Ooh, I really love this." Reminds me of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Like my mom used to buy CDs, physical CDs, and for the young people, like who don't know what that is,
Yeah,
we used to go to HMV, and she used to get like all of the new R&B CDs that were coming out, like my first CD was like, I think that she bought for myself was like a Chris Brown CD or a Rihanna CD. And so
wow.
like, yeah, like we had physical CDs, but I just remember every Saturday morning we would wake up, it would
That
start
was
with that bell ringing. And I'm like, okay, it's time to start cleaning and the Lauryn Hill is gonna come on. And it just made everything so much easier. Like, cleaning wasn't so harsh. You're like, all right, cool. Yeah.
no, I definitely I feel that that was a time that album definitely had us all in a chokehold on
Listen,
repeat. That album was scratched up from being played so many times, and it's
listen.
such a classic.
Yes, to this day, 25 years later, and it's still just like, just as amazing. So she's one of my favorite artists of all time, Lauryn Hill. But yeah, I think that's my first introduction to
I
R&B.
love that. So you started off with a classic. I love
Yes.
that. Okay, and so for you as a singer, because you've been singing basically your entire life, but
Mhm.
when is it that you decided that I'm gonna take this and run with it and make it my career?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
was
I've
there
always, like you said, I've always been singing, like whether that be with my cousins, but I think my solo career really started when I was in high school. And really, I was just only going to do the talent show because there was like a money prize. I was at the time, I would consider myself a baller. I was very interested in playing basketball. I had hoop dreams of like, going to a D1 school and, potentially being in the WNBA. And I had a friend who also sang, and she was like, I think you're good. Like, you need to do this talent show. And I was like, okay, well, why would I be doing it? And she was like, there's a prize. And I was like, all right, cool, then I'm doing it. But I didn't understand what it took to go and step in front of a stage by myself. I've been so used to performing with my cousins, with family members, with other people, with band members. And you know, when you step into like solo artistry, you don't understand how much space and energy other people take up when they're on the stage with you. So I had this huge like scare pretty much where I couldn't come out from behind the curtain.
Oh,
And I just sang this like Alicia Keys song. And I went like three quarters, almost about three quarters, or at least halfway through the song, like where I was singing behind the curtain. And everyone in the audience was just like, we've had enough. Like, who is behind the curtain? Like, who is it? So they all start cheering. They're like, come on. And it made me feel really nice. So I just literally opened like the middle divider, stepped in front of the curtain, started singing. Everyone's going wild. They're like, we didn't know you were a singer. But it was like my first confirmation that like I could probably do this by myself. And I ended up winning that talent show at my high school, and I went on to win like I think two other talent shows. And I was like, I really actually like love doing this. And it's not even so much for myself, but other people wouldn't even allow me to like let it go. They were like, "Okay, like,
Okay.
you know that you play ball, but like,
They were
you
on you.
yeah." They're like, "Okay, cool." So like every year, every couple of semesters, they'd be like, "Okay, so like where's the album?" Or like, "Where's the songs?" And I'm like, "Oh, I feel so much pressure." But like that I would say is like my first introduction to solo musicianship, solo artistry. And from there, like I connected with some really cool and like important people in my life, like my brother Julian Cooper, and you know his friend at the time, who then became my first manager ever, was Tim D, and we started recording music in like his basement and stuff. So yeah, I don't know, it just organically kind of came together.
I love that, but I love the encouragement that you get from people, like, around you that you probably don't even know
Yeah.
that is just pushing you to do it because they believe.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
love that.
voice, you know, and I think like it's interesting because like when I was going to church and stuff like that and I knew singers, it's a similar effect where it's like, you know, you hear something and you're like, wow, that's really speaking to me. That's speaking to my
Mhm.
soul. It's the same reason why I fell in love with R&B when I heard the Miseducation, because like that's doing something to me. It's moving me in some type of way. And you know, after I realized that that is really the gift that I was giving people, then I was like, okay, I think I really need to do this. Because you know, your mom loves you, and your mom tells
Yeah.
you like, oh, you're good, but then it's like your mom. But then you get the real confirmation and affirmation from strangers. Then you're like, oh, I might be onto something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because you said you grew up singing with, like, family and your cousins and stuff, so that's one thing. I
Yeah,
know families will tell you the truth, but it is another whole other feeling when somebody outside of your immediate circle can tell you that you need to pursue this, I love your voice, or this moves me, so
yeah,
that's super, super dope. And then I also read in your bio that because you're in Toronto and you were a part of different programs that helped you with your craft. So, what are some of those programs for people that might not know? And what's something that really helped you from maybe one of those programs?
yeah. I mean, one of the first, I would say, like inner city programs that I attended was the Remix Project, and a lot of people know about the Remix Project. But at the time that I was a part of it, I was probably in like round 4 or 5. I still don't remember what specific round. I can't remember, but it was still fairly fresh as the Remix Project. But it was a space that as an artist you could go, and I was in the recording arts program and like actually record. Anybody who is an up and coming artist knows that like studio time is and can get very expensive. Being in the studio and just having that creative space is also really difficult to find now in the day and age where like everybody has, you know, at home mics and you can kind of create at home. I think that's a little bit different. But during the era that I was in, the Remix Project, one of the first programs that I've ever attended, there wasn't any like home studios. I didn't even know the first thing to do that. So they were giving us opportunity to like be in a space, a recording space with a real engineer, and really cultivating and crafting your own sound. There were other people. I think one of the biggest takeaways from that project was like there were other people in the program, other artists that you could connect with, other people in like business arts who were looking to be managers or looking to be publicists or looking to be, you know, photographers or marketing, in marketing. And so it was like you were really building a community of people in your genre, which is like music or R&B, and you could cultivate that and craft those relationships from the ground up before people start getting famous. When you're like, oh, hey, did you want to work with me? It's like, oh no, yeah, we were in this thing together. And you know, you kind of build your team that way. So that was probably my first introduction to like an inner city program that was specifically for artists like myself, urban kids, black kids in the city, just like wanting to pursue some type of musical career. You know, I went on to do the Honey Jam, which is also in Toronto. Shout outs to Ebony. You know, she was a part of the Honey Jam, or she's the founder of Honey Jam, and along with a lot of other people. But I then transitioned to that stage where it's a little bit of a bigger stage than I was used to doing at the time. And again, just creating a community of other women, doing workshops, getting introduced to vocal coaching, and then doing the finale, which is the show, and you know, being able to be in front of a bigger audience and also an audience filled with music label executives, music lovers, just other people that you can connect with. And then, you know, it moved to Coalition. Shout outs to Coalition. They have a program there that's called Canada's Music Incubator. That's where I learned more music business. And I feel like that was my first introduction to music business. And that really kind of changed my life because I moved from just like an artist in trying to do this thing to an actual business that is viable, that I can actually foresee being my career. And I think that's really important, especially for up and coming artists. Sometimes it's hard as an artist in Canada, much less as an artist in Toronto or Montreal or anywhere that you are, um, to see how you can live off of music. Like everybody knows about the starving artist situation, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people are starving artists because we love the art of it, but at the same time, we have to treat it as a business. Like we are entrepreneurs crafting, and we need to learn a little bit of the business side of it so that we can actually sustain ourselves as artists moving forward. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other programs, and shout out to all the other programs that were involved. But I feel like those three programs or like were so pivotal in my life that I remember them and they stand out to me.
But that's one thing that I love about Toronto is that the artists have access to
Hmm.
these programs. So where I'm from in Montreal, we don't have that many like programs or outlets, especially for English speaking artists,
Wow.
to go out and do those type of things. And so I remember when I was a bit younger and I wanted to start off in public relations. And I remember my mentor at the time, Pollyanna Reed, was telling me about the Remix Project. And I was like,
Yay, she was telling.
wish I wish I could go because
Yeah.
we don't have anything like that here at all. And so I was always like kind of like jealous, like, oh, I wish we had those type of things here. So I think that's super dope that you had access and you were able to grow and also learn different parts of the business while you grow as an artist at the same time. So I love that.
Man, I often think about that, and it was just a conversation I was having the other day with like a sync music supervisor, and she was just talking about other places in Canada that just don't have the access to what people in Toronto are having access to. And
Mhm.
more and more I'm learning that it isn't we don't like us in Toronto, we don't have it figured out by any means, but we're still trying to figure it out. We're still kind of struggling even as artists, even as a Black woman who does R&B in the city of Toronto, in the country of Canada that doesn't necessarily have an infrastructure like that for R&B, it's difficult. But when I step back and I look at places like Montreal, like you're saying, or BC, Nova Scotia, Saskatoon, Alberta, like where there's artists like myself out there who just don't have access to programming like these. It makes me think, and it makes me wonder, like, what can we be doing that's a little bit more that brings more awareness to those smaller, like, kind of areas that do have R&B there, do have artists like myself, but just can't access the information and the knowledge. So yeah, definitely thinking about just expanding and how we can kind of connect the dots between the people who are maybe in Montreal or Saskatoon or Nova Scotia, Alberta, anywhere, none of it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity for us to grow,
Mhm.
just in Canada in general, and then in each province. So there's I always say, like, and I also want to use this platform for people to know, like, there are, if you do want to enter into the music business or the entertainment industry, like, there's so many different, like, problems and solutions that people could come up with to help our artists, especially in the R&B scene, because I just feel that we have so many talented R&B artists, but unfortunately, they don't have the platforms to tell their story or to perform as much as they should.
Yeah.
So I think there's opportunity everywhere. It's just about people connecting and then figuring it out and trying it out. So, but I do see there are some changes. Like there are groups that I always mention on here, like Advance,
Yes.
that are doing things to like position people in different places so that you
Ah,
we could grow.
yes. Yeah. Shout out to Events.
Yes. But you also have something that is helping artists as well. You have the Daydreamers program, right?
Yeah.
So let us know about that. What is that? How can people apply? Who can apply? You know,
Mm.
all that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always kind of brings it up, and I didn't know how important it was to my story until I started kind of doing, some of the interviews and people bring it up and they're interested in it. But in all honesty, I haven't really pursued the Daydreamers program in a couple of years because of COVID and a couple of other things. But um, what the Daydreamers program really is like a mentorship program for artists like myself, and then also like younger artists. I think when I was younger, when I was much earlier in my artistic career, I was looking for a mentor in what I was doing. I just wanted to know, like, am I on the right track? Am I doing the right things? Am I, doing what I'm supposed to do? What shall I do as a R&B artist in Toronto? And I was just looking for kind of like a little bit of advice around how do I go about, again, making this my career. And that was really hard for me, whether that was trying to find mentors or other artists who were older than me or more experienced than me, not necessarily having the time or not having the answers. And so I felt like that was a real big gap for me as a younger, more innocent kind of artist in my artistic career. So I felt like I wanted to kind of shoot that gap. I've always been very interested in community and like community building, and so I started this program just like, I don't know, off of a whim where I was like, I think I have some things to share with other young artists who ask me all of the time for advice or just like, what do you think about this? And so I started this program, and it was first immersed out of Sandbox Studios, which was a studio that opened up their space and allowed me to run the program. And it started with my four girls, and they applied, and we talked about everything from like, women of color in this industry. How can we navigate? We talked about, you know, not everybody is going to be a Rihanna or a Beyonce. So how can we diversify our artistry where we're actually going to be in the positions that make the most sense for us? We all have dreams, just like myself when I had dreams of being in the WNBA. Then I was like, actually, I have a real passion for singing, and I've always had it. But like, how do I go about doing that? And what are the other avenues that I can explore in music that will help me again become a sustainable artist? What is sync? What are my back end royalties? What is what is marketing? What is branding? What should my brand be? When I was younger, I thought that I had to perform in heels. I don't know what that was about. It was just like I had to be in heels, but then, I'm there on stage and I'm like so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
which honestly if affected the way that I performed. And I'm already nervous and anxious. So just being in heels or in a dress, being nervous and anxious in front of people I don't know just made for a big ball of anxiety and didn't help me as an artist. And so now, seeing that people are performing in whatever makes them feel most comfortable, and even for myself, like people know you probably won't catch me in heels unless there is a seat for me.
I
But
I feel that.
right, like I'm just a sneaker girl. I really love sneakers, and I'm just most comfortable performing in my sneakers or something more flat. And I feel once I feel comfortable there, then I feel like I perform better. So just little things, having conversations about some of the issues or challenges that young people face in this industry, especially in the Toronto industry and especially in the Canadian industry. We don't have very many radio stations that support our music, urban music, and how do we navigate that? Or how do we find and expose ourselves to the market in Montreal? How do we expose ourselves to the market in, the UK or the US? So there was a lot of different conversations, but really it was just building community and building that sense of like understanding that you can come to somebody if you need a question, and I might not have all the answers, I probably won't, but we can put our minds together and find it. And really that's what the Daydreams program was, and still is. There's still some mentorship aspects, but I think because I stepped back into full-time artistry, it's been really hard for me to do both. But I'm still very interested in artist mentorship, especially for my young women of color. And yeah, so I'm going to be bringing it back now that we're past, hopefully past the pandemic situation.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring it back so that we can definitely have more conversation and just continue to turn the wheel.
No, I love that, and I really do hope that you do bring it back because I think a lot of people can just learn a lot from you personally. Even if you don't have other people joining in to give that expert advice, you have enough expertise under your belt to help the next generation of artists that are coming up. So I think that would be super dope. And I always feel like if you learn something, you should definitely not hold it and keep it to yourself, but put it out there.
I
So,
agree. We have to share the knowledge. Like that's
mhm.
the only way that we move the needle. So it's like sharing that knowledge, and and sharing it with young people, especially they're the next generation of, like, young people and musicians, and sync music supervisors or photographers. They're the next generation, so they need to have the knowledge. And when I was younger, I just remember thinking, like, if I had known, like, I didn't have to wear heels, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache, and the process in which going through artistry and learning how to perform on stage would have been easier and probably quicker. So yeah.
And probably more fun too.
More fun, yeah, the experience, right? Yeah.
Definitely. So I do want to, just, make a slight detour and talk about Detour.
Yeah,
'Cause that is an album that came out in 2021, but I still feel that it's, like, still bringing opportunity till this day, and it's still impacting, your audience and stuff, so, I wanna get into that because I feel like although, like, you listen to it, you know that it's about, love and relationships, but then I feel that it's also, teaching us basically that life just brings you detours, so we think
yes.
something I do this all the time. I plan out everything. I'm a Virgo, so I plan everything out. I have a list, but things don't always go as
They almost never do.
so
Yeah.
now I'm learning to let the universe do what the universe is gonna do, and I'm trying to just go with the flow.
That is exactly it. I had taken a little bit of, like, a break from music, and before I dropped Detour. And then, I had all these plans. I was like, okay, cool. Here's gonna be like my comeback. I'm gonna have this
Mhm.
music and I'm gonna be like great. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, damn, like, what am I gonna call this project? And, like, are people gonna be listening now? Because, like, they're going through their own stuff, and this is gonna be difficult. But really, in the process of making the project, you're right. Like, it does speak from a place of relationship and love, but also at the same time, I was like, Detour is so profound at that time because the whole world was experiencing a detour. Like,
Mhm.
we couldn't have planned for a pandemic that really made people shift and pivot the way that they started thinking, or the way that they were thinking. And it's affected us to this day. So, I just thought it was really profound in the sense that, like, the whole world is experiencing a detour, and so why not write about a shared experience, but, from my perspective, which is a relationship perspective, but one that everyone can relate to, in the sense of we always make plans, and shout outs to Desiree McKenzie. She's the writer of the poem in the very beginning that I'm reciting. And when I was, thinking about the project, and I had all these songs, and I was telling her about my idea, but I was like, it's not quite there, it's missing something. And she made this poem that really is just so perfectly fitting, like,
Yeah.
for what I was trying to convey in the project, but very like much more directional and intentional around, like, what I want to say and what the message I want to leave the listeners with, which really is like, may every deviation bring you intention. And that's really what this is. And like you said, it came out in 2021, but it's really allowed me and expanded my musicianship and artistry past that year. And so that's the intention piece of it, the deviation of, like, not going through this whole relationship and this breakup and this heartache. And then, the intentional part of it is like, this is my growth. These are my flowers. This is what's blossoming from this place of hurt that I experienced. So yeah, that's the project. I'm so happy you listened to it and liked it.
Oh, no, I've been listening to it. It's not I just listened to it. I've been listening
Yes.
to it. It's such a dope project, and I love that you, mentioned the opening track because I thought that poem was really it's so good. Like, you have to listen to it more than once, I find, to really, like, digest the words and everything that you're really saying. So, shout out what's her name? Desiree McKenzie?
Yeah.
Yes, shout out to
Yeah.
her.
Shout outs to her. It's an incredible poem. She's an incredible poet. Like, if you get a chance, take a look at her. She's won poetry slams and whatnot. But I think, again, just like the way that she's able to capture and captivate the idea that I had in my mind was just really incredible and profound for me. And so yeah, shout outs to her.
So one of the things I feel that Detour has brought you is to go on a North American tour with Jesse Reyes, which is
Mhm.
huge. So I was so happy when that announcement came out. So let us know, how was your experience on tour?
Incredible. Like, I know. I've done a couple of like interviews and podcasts and then everyone always asks me and they're like, That's it, just incredible. Like that's all you have to say. And I'm like, I don't even think I have the words even right the now to really express like how good of an experience it was for me. I learned so much and it was like the good feeling of learning. Like, you know, when you're like excited to learn and you're like, this was
Mhm.
like such a good learning experience. And then sometimes you have like bad learning experiences where we go through things. It's like, okay, cool. I learned my lesson, but I don't have to go through that again, you know?
Yeah.
This was such a good learning experience, even through, you know, some of the trials and tribulations or some of the things that like we kind of had to get over hurdles, at least for myself as an artist trying to get onto the tour. I'm really happy that it panned out to be as good as it was because it was more than like what I expected. Um, and so I think Jessie is an incredible human. Like, I know that a lot of people may or may not understand the kind of person that she is because we're not all seeing her personally. But
Mhm.
I think she's just so open. She's like a really big ball of like positivity and energy. And she really wants to see like you win. And that's so, I think that's like, that's not common these days. And so just being around her was just amazing. And then that I feel like, you know, transcends to her team, who was also really amazing, who really kind of took me under the wing and was like, okay, this is what you kind of need to do. This is what you're doing great. You know, this is how you kind of navigate this and that, and just really great advice. And when things weren't working out with like necessarily my sound, her team was so open to like helping me figure that piece out. And um, I think that's just like that that's so amazing because not everyone has really great first tour experiences. And I think it really starts with that the artist and like what the expectation is for when you go on tour. And I always say this, like when I get to headlining my own first tour, I want to give that experience to another up and coming artist that was good and positive and, you know, very professional and just like a good overall musical experience that they can remember for the rest of their life. So when people ask me like how was your experience, it really was amazing. Like I wasn't expecting to see Jessie daily or
Mhm.
um I wasn't expecting to be able to even interact with her as much as we did. But again, just making those points to be present for your openers, making those points to even just say, hey, you're going to have a great show. Like, you know, your team, her parents, oh my God, they're so sweet.
Mhm.
Like her parents making a point to just sit in on every show, you know, and then in return, like I've seen Jessie perform that set like 20 times, but I would be out there every single evening as if I've never seen it before. And that's just like also speaks to such an incredible artist and performance that she has and she gives every single night. You know, we're moving through different climates,
Mhm.
yeah, and like, you know, you can get sick. We're like cold one day, hot another day. You wake up and it's like, oh, this warm. You wake up and it's like, damn, it's cold. Like, you know, so we're as especially as singers, you feel those effects. And it's really important who you have around you and who kind of lifts you up and makes you feel encouraged before you go on stage. And it was just all of those things. It was a really good team. And shout outs to Nisha. She was also another opener. Um, and again, we just had really good like synergy, I felt like.
That's good because I remember I had someone else on the show. He is a radio host here in Montreal, and he was telling me sometimes, like with tours, sometimes to get like people to open for like big name acts, he's seen some things where the headliner is not so nice to the openers, and I was just
Exactly.
like, "Are you serious? Oh my gosh!" So I'm happy that you had an incredible experience and I've never met Jessie Reyes. I don't know her, just her social media, and she just seems like a just genuinely just a kind
Yeah.
human being.
She's just a fun ass girl. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't obviously she takes things seriously, but never too
Mhm.
seriously, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like again the definition of just like when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. And like what Detour is all about, like she just goes with the flow. Like her first show in Miami was like rained out and her fans were there and she was like, I feel so bad, but like, okay, I'm just gonna do an acoustic set outside, like, you know, just going with the flow. And
Mhm.
I think all of us as artists can really learn from how authentic she is, and she doesn't try to be like someone she's not. Like it's always just about comfort for her. Like when I go on stage, I want to feel comfortable so I can perform my best. And she's a rock star, like, just not there's just like little effort, it feels like, where she just
Yeah.
like goes out there and she's like, yeah, and then comes off and she's like, all right, cool, hey guys. Like it's incredible to see. So
What
yeah.
did you learn about yourself from the tour?
I feel like I've learned one. I feel like I didn't know if I could do. I was a little afraid of like if I could do this tour back to back all of the nights, and I was really shocked that my voice was still intact. As much as it was, because there were times where I don't know, we would go out after, and here I am, like, sometimes my voice, the way that it's so, like, sensitive, I can speak at, like, maybe 5 decibels, and then by tomorrow, I have no voice, just because
Okay.
I'm, like, speaking over music or, like, yelling or laughing too hard, and then I have no voice. And there were moments where I was like, "Oh my gosh, will I have a voice by tonight when I'm supposed to go on?" But every night, it showed up, and, um, again, just shout outs to, like, the team and just giving us little tips and pointers, like, ginger shots. Anybody going on tour, like, get your ginger shots, get your vitamins, vocal rest. The off days are more important to me than like the show days. Like the day that you have off, which is like really for you to rest,
Mhm.
it's important that you take advantage of that. But I feel like I just learn more about myself as an artist, and I think one of the biggest takeaways for me really is that like I feel like this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. Before it was like, and I think artists, we go through that where it's like, am I like really supposed to be doing this? But um, after going on this tour and just experiencing um, each city and the people coming up to me and just like, again, just a lot of love, I learned that I feel like, everybody kind of needs that watering. I
Yeah.
call it like the watering, like I had faith the size of a mustard seed. It's still there, but it was kind of small. And Jesse watered me with this opportunity, and then I feel like I just want to like share that now, and I just want to do so well, and it's like a different level of confidence that you get to walk in the world with. And so I've learned that about myself, that I just feel like I can do this, like this is something that I'm supposed to be doing.
No, that's beautiful, and definitely please keep going.
Thank you.
Definitely keep going. Because I know this is just the beginning. I know you've been doing this for so many years. You started out when you were young, but I feel like, the star is really like rising now. So
Mhm.
definitely keep on going. You're definitely on the right track. Don't second guess yourself.
Thank
Like
you.
keep it going, definitely. And on tour, was there like a song that people gravitated to that you noticed when you
Oh
performed before?
yes.
Which song?
Everyone always loves when I do covers. So, I
Okay.
mean, okay, so on tour, you have to understand, like, I'm an artist that I think going to all of these cities, they don't know the music before coming.
Mhm,
So they're being introduced to the music. So when they hear something familiar, they just get excited off the rip, and they just want to know, like, oh my gosh, she can sing.
mhm.
And so, in my set for this tour, I had Mary J. Blige, I'm Going Down.
Okay.
And every time it was like the hook, like every time, I would see people at the front stage, and they're here for Jesse, so they're just like, okay, like what's this girl about to do? I'm like the first opener, right? So they're like, "Ah, okay, like let's get to it." And then you hear them even before you go on, and they're doing is doing Jesse, Jesse, Jesse. So you kind of get nervous. But whenever I sang I'm Going Down, you just see like that's the flip where they're like, oh, okay, let's listen to this girl. Like, what does she have going on? So I feel like that was it. And then from there, like the set on from I'm Going Down, I think people were just so attentive,
Mhm.
so involved. The audience engagement is like much higher just from there, I think. Yeah.
No, but I love that because that's like a different feeling, like when
Mhm.
you can see that the audience is really connecting to what you're singing. So that's why I want to know, like, what do they gravitate towards you? Because I love going to concerts, that's like my favorite thing, but I also love to see, especially when it's an artist that I really like, I also like to see, like, people's reactions to certain
Yes.
things, so how that connects with, the people that are watching too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm Going Down, because it was a cover and it's something familiar,
Mhm.
was really engaging. And then I would say Shorty from the City and Blessed are two songs that I feel like people are, oh, and Notice. those are the 3 songs that I feel like people are really zoned in on and even ask me about, like, after the show. Like, "What song is this?" Or, like, "What song is this?" Which is great, I love that. They're interested in the cover, but they're also interested in the original music as well.
Love that. And so now that the tour is done, like what's coming up for you in 2023? Are you still living in this moment of detour? Are you taking a break? What is happening?
No, I'm not taking a break. I'm more fired up, as I said. So I've been in the studio and I'm really just like creating. I'm in a creative space. I'm in a creative mindset. I'm creating and wanting to release music. Hopefully not super soon, but hopefully soon enough. I still want to put out quality. So I've just been living in the studio and creating and just trying to connect with other producers and figure out and craft like my sound. But I do want to continue to like kind of live off of the momentum of what the tour has kind of given to me. And a lot of people are in my DMs like, we can't wait for your music, your new music and stuff like that. So I'm so excited to just like bring new music to the table and just kind of get that ball rolling again and get back to performing. I definitely want to get on another tour. I know that again, people are just like, what are you talking about? Like, not every
Yeah,
tour is going to be like
what would
Jesse.
be your dream tour? Like if you could open up for anybody, who would you choose?
I love Jasmine,
Who
Ari
would-
Lennox,
And
her
she has her tour happening.
no, her, Summer Walker, any of the R&B babes, even like, even the guys, I don't care. Tone Stith, I love him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like it just listen, I'll open up for anybody that makes sense for what I do, So
Yeah.
very interested in that. Very, very interested.
Well, put it up into the universe.
Telling you.
We
I'm
never
telling
know.
you, you have to do it. That's exactly how I got here on this tour as well. So I'm letting the universe do its thing. I will be on tour and festival stages and all the good stuff. So you will see me soon.
I love it. And I can't wait for new music. Don't
Yeah.
want to rush you, but I can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we get into some R&B trivia, I do want to ask because there's some things that you mentioned, and I think it would be good for people to hear because you talked about Jessie Reyes and her team being really good. So for you, how did you find your team? Like maybe your management, because there's a lot of artists that are looking for managers. How did you connect with your management?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And I don't have all the answers if I'm being very honest. Like, I'm still looking to expand my team. But
Mhm.
the way that I find my team, or I like to have people a part of my team, is really based on like organic interaction. Um, I was getting ready. Actually, I already completed Detour, and I was getting ready to figure out the marketing to how to release it. And I just knew that I wasn't able to do it on my own. For many years prior to that, I was like, I could do this on my own. I could do this on my own. It's just going to get done the way that I want it to be done. So I'm just going to do it by myself. And I knew that I was just one person and I couldn't take on like a lot of that work. And so um, a friend had introduced me to my two managers, Paco and Bianca at the time. And I think they were also fairly, not so much Paco, but I think Bianca was also fairly new in management. And we've had a lot of growing pains together, but like we've kind of worked through those growing pains. And so it started out as just a project management situation where I was like, hey, let's just see how this goes. Cause I think that artist management is like a relationship. Like, this is your marriage. Like, you're going to be entering into a pretty long term, hopefully, relationship. And so we're like, okay, let's see, like, do you even like me? Or like the style that, the way that I do things. Do you like that I'm not the kind of person that is going to be sitting and writing music every single day of my life? I also need to live life in order to write music. And like, do you like the way that I sing? Do you like the music that I make? Are you going to be here coming in to try to like change everything around? So it was a lot of courting and back and forth, like, do you like me? Do I like you? Do we understand each other? And then from there it was just really expansion, like figuring out, okay, well, who do we need? Photographer. My tour photographer, shout outs to Coops, he like really, really, really up the ante on my content. Like, not having him, I think we really would have kind of missed out on sharing the experience with all of the people who are there to support me as well. So it's really just, again, that courting where it's like, do we make sense together? I like organic interactions and organic relationships and how they form. Sometimes it's not always going to be that, but I think the closest people to me, I have to really our energies have to be on the same wavelength. Yeah.
No, but that's good advice because so many people are looking for managers, or they had managers and it didn't really work out, or they've had multiple managers and it hasn't really worked out and it gets frustrating.
Yeah.
So I think your perspective is important for someone to listen to and to know, because when they go out there, maybe they'll, try and find something more organic, or
Right.
ask those questions kind of like you're on your first date,
Exactly.
to see if
Ask
the
the
two are
questions
compatible.
and also see, like, if you say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And, the first day, everybody's going to promise you all these things, but like, do they
Mhm.
get done? Are they actually getting done? Are you actually working towards the goals that you have? Are you steering your ship, or is somebody else steering your ship? And none of these have, like, specific answers that I can answer. It's like really just about the individual and how they see their artistry doing. Some people are completely okay with somebody else kind of driving the boat and figuring out what the direction for their artistry is, whereas some people like to take a little bit more of the reins
Mhm.
and communicate that, and then the manager really manages all of those things and figures out how to get that for the artist. So I think it all just depends. And sometimes, for a long time I didn't have a manager. Like a long time in between I didn't have a manager, and I'm I'm learning that, like, you do have to have something to manage. So build yourself up as an up and coming artist, or as if you're starting out or whatnot, build yourself up so that you start noticing there's something to manage here. I'm getting a lot of emails that I cannot handle myself. I'm getting a lot of inquiries about shows that I can't handle myself. I'm getting a lot of questions about sync opportunities that I'm not really knowledgeable in, and so a lot of the work we can do ourselves, but some of the work we have to delegate, or we have to see if there's a team around us that can help us out. And it might not be a manager. It might be, some people just have publicists. They don't have managers. They have publicists. They have assistants. They have photographers, videographers, like everything except for a manager. So teams are literally like families. They look different. They come in different shapes, sizes. It's just like figuring out what makes sense and what works for you.
Yeah, because that's a whole other conversation, knowing what you need and when you need it. So yeah,
Right.
whole other
Exactly.
beast.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that information. I think it's important, and I think somebody can learn from that and then use that to hopefully find the right management for them. So
Mhm.
thank you. So now we are going to get into some R&B trivia.
Ooh.
So I have 6 questions for you, and
Okay.
we'll see how well you do. Some may be hard, some are easy.
No, yeah, I don't know. I'm not very good at trivia. Every time I do it, I'm just like embarrassed. And when I look back at it, I'm like, I knew that answer. Okay,
Okay,
let's
well,
try
what
it
I usually do to help the artist out is, if I don't have a theme, I usually take the artist that they're influenced by.
out. Okay.
So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay? And then it's gonna be
Yeah.
like
All right.
mad easy.
Hopefully.
Okay, so question 1. So Fearless, Reality Show, and Love Me Back are albums by which Philly singer? His name is
Jasmine, that's my
See?
girl.
You don't even need a
Yeah.
multiple choice, you got it.
Yes.
Okay, question 2. So this might be a little bit tricky, but I put it in because you're a songwriter, she's a songwriter. So what song did Lauryn Hill write for Mary J. Blige?
Ooh,
Is it Family Affair, Deep Inside, All That I Can Say, or Share My World?
it's either All That I Can Say or Share My World.
Okay,
Is it?
which one?
Okay. What would I feel like Lauren would be All That I Could Say. I'm gonna
Is
go
that your final
with
answer?
All That I Could Say.
That
Final.
is correct.
Yeah. Yes. That sounds very Lauren. That sounds very
See? Yes.
fitting. Okay, that's awesome. I actually didn't even know that she wrote that.
Yeah, she wrote that song.
Yeah.
All right, so question 3. These lyrics are from which song by Aaliyah? And I'm not a singer, so Imma just
That's all good, girl.
okay.
Let's see.
We hooked up, we sat down, made an agreement, we vowed that. Is it from One in a Million, Rock the Boat, More Than a Woman, or I Don't Wanna?
I want to say. I don't want to.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, awesome. Okay, my brain works a little slow, but that's I don't want to. Yes, okay,
Just see,
okay.
look, you're
We doing
killing
good.
it.
We doing good. We doing good. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Okay. What is the name of the song Janet Jackson did with her brother? Is it PYT, Scream, Doesn't Really Matter, or Together Again?
I don't think. Okay, it's not that one. Okay, what is it? Scream. PYT.
Doesn't Really Matter, or Together Again?
I'm gonna say. Damn. Okay, I'm gonna say together again.
That is incorrect.
Ah, it's the one before it. Is it
The answer is Scream.
Scream?
Yes,
I didn't remember that. Okay,
that is the
all right,
duet.
got
They
one.
had the black and white video.
Yes, I'm writing it down. Okay, all right, we got it. We got it.
All right, this should be an easy one. If you don't get this one, I'm gonna be a little nervous for you.
Okay.
True or false? Jessie Reyes' first studio album is called Before Love Came to Kill Us.
Before love. Is that her first studio album? No. Is it? Does that
It
one
is
have figures? Oh my god, that's horrible. We're gonna cut that one. Yes, true. The thing is, I don't think I do very well with albums. I do well with songs, but yeah.
It's because she had EPs before that.
Yeah. Oh,
But
okay.
it's
Okay,
a
yeah. Oh,
that's
okay. Yeah. That's why I'm like, I don't think well, I know of the older EPs because we
mhm.
were doing shows together and stuff like that. So I was like, that can't be her first album, but I guess it is her probably her first studio album. Okay.
Yeah, but see, that's what
Oh,
makes things tricky these days because there's all
yeah.
these EPs, and so you think they're albums because they have all the songs, but
Yep.
then
Yep.
years later, they finally come out with their
That's
first album.
that's gonna be me. I think I'm gonna be doing only EPs for a while until there's a demand for an album. Yeah.
Well, it will be in the R&B trivia one day. I'll have
All
it there.
right.
Okay, so last question. Which hip hop group inspired SZA's name? Is it Run DMC, Wu-Tang Clan, A Tribe Called Quest, or NWA?
And not Run DMC, a Tribe Called Quest.
Wu-Tang or NWA?
I don't think it's Wu Tang, is it? Or, I'm trying to use process of elimination. This was going well, and at the end is just killing me. I'm gonna
Okay,
say,
so you said not Run DMC, which is correct, so that's
yeah.
out the
No,
way.
I already used that one. Is not it? You said Run DMC, Wu Tang, Tribe
Tribe
Called
Called
Quest, and
Quest, NWA.
NWA. Uh, I feel like it's not NWA.
Okay, good.
Okay,
So we have
so
Wu-Tang or Tribe Called
Wu Tang
Quest.
or Tribe Called Quest. I'm gonna say, let's say Wu Tang.
Correct.
All right, because it's like SZA. I don't know.
RZA.
I'm
Exact no, but that's it.
okay, cool. I was doing process of elimination. I knew it was something with RZA. All right, cool.
That's
Shout
it.
out to
It
Wu Tang.
is
Shout out to Ghostface Killer. Ghostface has been a supporter of mine, and honestly, he's amazing.
yes, he is one of my favorite rappers.
Really?
I love Ghostface.
Okay, well,
Love
let's
it.
hope we can put something together. Shout out to Ghostface, man.
Yeah, no, he is super dope. I love, love, love. But yes, her name is based from RZA. She took
Oh,
RZA,
didn't
changed
know
it
that.
up, SZA.
Solana made it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. I learned some stuff today.
See,
Okay.
but that's it. Even if you don't get it right, you end up learning some R&B trivia facts that you can,
Mm,
shoot out there sometime if ever
for
it calls
real.
for
That
it. So
was good.
It's all a learning process. So thank you for playing R&B trivia with me.
Wow, thank you for having me on R&B trivia. That
No
was fun.
problem. So let the people know where they could follow you and keep up with you so that when you do drop something, we could support.
Yeah, so I'm on all social media as Leila Dey. Pretty much everything is Leila Dey, but Leila Dey is spelled Leiladey. You can also visit leiladay.com. I'm going to try and update that as much as possible, but I'm on social media, all streaming platforms, and you will hear about it through my social media. I'm always trying to update those as much as possible through my website, through YouTube. Follow me, tell a friend to listen to Detour or any of the other music that I have out, and just support any of the upcoming artists, like even in your city. If you love an artist that is really trying to do their thing, support. If you like the music, support it.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Definitely stream Detour. Look back at the other songs and albums that came out, well, EPs, I should say, that came out under Leila Dey. She is an amazing artist. Everyone support her. And thank you so much, Leila Dey, for coming on the Total R&B podcast and taking time out of your day to talk with me. It's much appreciated.
Oh, I had such a good time. Thank you so much for having me. And shout out to Total R&B. We'll be back. Hopefully, we'll do this again, and I'll be much further in my artistic career.
Oh, you are going to be further.
I will be. I'll be much
Yes,
further. I'll be
you
on my
will.
own tour. And you're going to be like, how was your first headlining tour? And I'm going to be like, do you remember when I got all those trivia questions wrong? And it's going to be so amazing. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you. And so this is the Total R&B podcast. My name is Lorena. You can follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and TikTok at total.rnb. This is a bi-weekly podcast, so we will be back in 2 weeks with a new interview.